As rich as Croesus. Some thousands of years ago there lived in Asia a king whose name was Croesus. The country over which he ruled was not very large, but its people were prosperous and famed for their wealth. Croesus himself was said to be the richest man in the world. So well known is his name that to this day people say of a very wealthy person that he is as rich as Croesus. King Croesus had everything that could make him happy: lands and houses, fine clothing to wear, and beautiful things to look at. He could not think of anything he needed to make him more comfortable or contented. "I am the happiest man in the world," he said. It happened one summer that a great man from across the sea was traveling in Asia. The name of this man was Solon. He was the lawmaker of Athens in ancient Greece. He was noted for his wisdom. Even long after his death people would praise a wise man by saying he is as wise as Solon. Solon had heard of Croesus, and so one day he visited him in his beautiful palace. Croesus was now happier and prouder than ever before, for the wisest man in the world was his guest. He led Solon through his palace. He showed him the grand rooms, the fine carpets, the soft couches, the rich furniture, the pictures, the books. Then he invited him out to see his gardens and his orchards and his stables. He showed him thousands of rare and beautiful things that he collected from all parts of the world. In the evening the wisest of men and the richest of men dined together. The king said to his guests, "Tell me, Solon, who do you think is the happiest of all men?" He expected that Solon would say Croesus. The wise man was silent for a minute, and then he said, "I have in mind a man who once lived in Athens and whose name was Tellus. He, I doubt not, is the happiest of all men." This was not the answer that Croesus wanted, but he hid his disappointment and asked, "Why do you think so?" "Because," answered his guest, "Tellus was an honest man. He labored hard for many years to bring up his children and give them a good education, and when they were grown and able to take care of themselves, he joined the Athenian army and gave his life bravely in the defense of this country. Can you think of anyone who is more deserving of happiness?" "Perhaps not," answered Croesus, half choking with disappointment. "But who do you think ranks next to Tellus in happiness?" He was quite sure now that Solon would say Croesus. "I have in mind," said Solon, "two young men whom I knew in Greece. Their father died when they were mere children, and they were very poor. But they worked to keep the house together and to support their feeble mother. Year after year they toiled, with no thought of anything but their mother's comfort. When at last she died, they gave their love to Athens, their native city, and served nobly as long as they lived." Then Croesus was angry. "Why is it," he asked, "that you think my wealth and power are nothing? Why is it that you place these poor working people above the richest king in the world?" "O king," said Solon, "no man can say whether you are happy or not until you die, for no man knows what misfortunes may overtake you, or what misery may be yours in place of all of this splendor." Many years after this there arose in Asia a powerful king named Cyrus. At the head of a great army he marched from one country to another, overthrowing many a kingdom and attaching it to his great empire in Babylon. King Croesus, with all his wealth, was not able to stand against this mighty warrior. He resisted as long as he could. Then his city was taken and his beautiful palace burned. His orchards and gardens were destroyed. His treasures were carried away, and he himself was made prisoner. "The stubbornness of this man Croesus," said King Cyrus, "has caused us much trouble and the loss of many good soldiers. Take him and make an example of him for others who may dare to stand in our way." The soldiers seized Croesus and dragged him to the marketplace. Then they built up a great pile of dry sticks and timber taken from the ruins of his once beautiful palace. When this was finished, they tied the unhappy king in the midst of it, and one ran for a torch to set it on fire. "Now we shall have a merry blaze," said the brutal fellows. "What good can all his wealth do him now?" As poor Croesus, bruised and bleeding, lay without a friend to soothe his misery, he thought of the words Solon had spoken to him years before. "No man can say whether you are happy or not until you die," he moaned. "Oh, Solon, Solon, Solon!" It so happened that Cyrus was riding by at that very moment and heard his moans. "What does he say?" he asked one of the soldiers. "He says, 'Solon, Solon, Solon,'" answered one. Then the king rode nearer and asked Croesus, "Why do you call on the name of Solon?" Croesus was silent at first, but after Cyrus had repeated his question kindly, he told all about Solon's visit at the palace and what he had said. The story affected Cyrus deeply. He thought of the words, No man knows what misfortunes may overtake you, or what misery may be yours in place of all of his splendor. And then he wondered if sometime he would lose all his power and be helpless in the hands of his enemies. "After all," said he, "shouldn't we be merciful and kind to those in distress? I will do to Croesus as I would have others do to me." And he caused Croesus to be given his freedom, and ever afterward treated him as one of his most honored friends.